in the markets today, the big thing that's going on right now, Trump is in talks with, or he already had the talks with President Xi of China.
Yeah, and apparently it's going to happen soon. They're going to meet. He's been invited to China, and he's also invited Xi to, the US. So I guess they're gonna sit down soon.
And the markets again are just relatively flat because there's no big deals coming out of it yet so far. So, and then you said he was talking with Trump was talking with the chancellor, wasn't he not, with Germany?
Yeah, and also he was just insulting Elon Musk. So it seems like they've officially now ended their friendship. Said, I'm very disappointed in Elon, and said all sorts of things. And then Elon's hit back saying it's all false. So the break has occurred.
Yeah, no, I've seen, and we're going to get to it in our Are You Serious section here. I also saw the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, speak about Elon as well. Anyway, gold. Well, you expected it, so there you go. You win. I didn't.
I did call it, but I must say I don't consider myself Nostradamus. There, these two giant egos were eventually, I think, they were gonna go their own ways.
You are your own Elizabeth May. Gold was up pretty big this morning. It was over the $3,400 mark this morning, and has since sold off to that $33.55. So just kind of bouncing in that range still. There you go. Gold. And, we don't talk about silver much, but silver actually breaking $35, the U.S. announced. And silver, lots of people, that poor man's gold is lots of times the preferred one for people with less money because you can buy a lot of, silver maples and stuff like that. And if nothing else, you got yourself a really cool looking coin. Bitcoin off a bit this morning. Bitcoin actually currently right now around the 103,577 mark. Again, still holding that $100,000 mark, so it's building a little base here before it either springs higher or plunges back down, but I'm going to go with higher. Technically, it looks pretty good still. And then the Canadian dollar, again, that's we talked about it yesterday. U.S. dollar weakness is more about the U.S. dollar has been sliding of late, and that's Trump with his tariffs and stuff like that's causing some of the other nations that are being affected by it to start to sell U.S. treasuries in that. So they have a weapon to use against him as well. So there you go. And then the oil up, today marginally. But again, if you look at West Texas Intermediate at the top of the chart at 63.48 and look down around the middle there, you're going to find Western Canadian Select at $50. A big discount. Because, again, just so everybody knows, why is there such a big discount? Lots of reasons, but one of the biggest reasons is we only have one market to sell it to. There you go. And that market tells us.
And then look at Brent crude there, just about the most expensive one. So that's the one that they get out of the North Sea off the coast of Britain. Oh. I mean, quite a difficult operation to do that with the, you have to build these oil platforms. I mean, it's such hard work. It's so expensive to do, and yet they figured it all out and they send it off to all the markets in the world. Whereas in Alberta, I know it's hard, but it's in many ways it's easier because it's in the ground. It's like at least you can be on land, and there it is at a massive discount.
Decarbonized oil. It's plastic. You just turn oil into plastic, and then it's carbon capture, because the carbon captured in the plastic. And then somebody can melt it down and release it. I don't know.
Maybe we should make coins out of plastic. Then we can decarbonize our currency.
There you go. And this is a little clip here that we've talked about so many times, and I just thought we'd play this clip here.
And so we have been unusually clear about the future path for interest rates. If you've got a mortgage, or if you're considering to make a major purchase, or you're a business and you're considering making an investment, you can be confident that interest rates will be low for a long time. low interest rates make spending and investment more affordable, and spending and investment will support the recovery. That would be our message to Canadians.
And he still has his job. 19-fold increase.
It's amazing. Yeah.
19-fold increase.
I mean, that is such a. How often do you hear central bankers speak like that as well? It's extremely rare for them to say something as like clear as that. It was almost like an instruction, wasn't it? It's like go buy stuff. He's like trying to hypnotize people.
And it was. The thing is that he's Canada's #1 financial advisor. Really, I mean, he's advising the country on finances, and then so Canadians went out and got that mortgage, and now they're trapped. You know what I mean? They got these mortgages, and you know, like right now we're seeing, you know, like the real estate market is smashing into a wall, and it's bad for a lot of people that these mortgages are resetting, and some of them are resetting at prices that are, you know, like 50, 60% higher, and a lot of Canadians only have $200 left, and some don't even have that in their ability to make these mortgage payments. And then some of these mortgages now are on properties, if they bought during the COVID time, are on properties that are now below what they owe on the property. So here you're saying you got to pay $1,000 more a month for a property that's $200,000 less than you bought it for. So, and then Tiff Macklin comes out and says, well, you know, we're not really going to lower interest rates because we're, you know, like, I'm not sure what they're waiting for. The job market is soft and people are losing their jobs. Unemployment at near 7%. When it goes over that 7% mark, 8%, 9%, you know, like what, 10% is like depression territory? Like, because that's not the real number. The real number is a lot higher.
Oh, totally, because there's so many uncounted people that aren't looking anymore and that kind of thing. But also another thing, we talk about unemployment quite a lot, and pressure on, you know, from the unemployed person's perspective, hard to find a job. And yet hundreds of thousands of immigrants have already come just this year. And I'm sure you've seen some of the videos. I know this is like, it's just a video. It's like basically anecdotal evidence, but you see the videos of people lining up to try and get a job at Tim Hortons and stuff like that, and Home Depot or whatever it is. And you look at the video, like they mostly look to be Indian students or Indian temporary workers. Like, what on earth is going on? Why are these people being allowed, like invited into Canada, allowed to come here, but there's nothing for them? You know, what kind of life are they going to have? They can't even get a job. It's terrible.
Do you remember when Pierre Poilievre and some of the Conservatives dared critique Tiff Macklin and his policies? And then the Trudeau Liberals went after them and say, how dare you, including CBC, how dare you go after our institutions? It's a threat to democracy to actually go after. This guy shouldn't have his job. Plain and simple. Many Canadians are suffering because of the advice this guy gave. And that 19-fold increase in interest rates, unprecedented. He should be held responsible for it. But according to the CBC and many of the Liberals, how dare you question an institution of Canada? So they can just...
That's what they said was threatening the independence of the bank, which must be protected at all costs, even if the bank is making mistakes that are destroying the lives of Canadians. Still, the principle is more important, apparently, to protect the independence of the bank rather than to protect Canadians.
He's the expert. He's the expert that should be losing his job because he failed Canadians.
But it's also this like fundamentally anti-democratic argument, which is like, oh no, he wasn't elected or anything like that, but we can't touch him, even though he's probably the most powerful person in Canada and has the biggest influence on the economy, at least kind of jointly with the Prime Minister. But apparently, apologize. You know, we're just supposed to say, oh, okay, well, nothing we can do then. It's like, what's the point of having a democracy if you can't fire somebody with that much power? That is the point of a democracy. Is that the people supervise things like that.
I think that's been the biggest problem here in Canada. Nobody's been held accountable for so many mistakes in our economy. Nobody's been held accountable. And it's just, you know, and obviously we didn't even hold the Liberals accountable. We re-elected them. 10 years of
well, that's the thing. Accountability was on offer.
Yeah.
Accountability was on offer from Pierre Poilievre, particularly in this case that you've highlighted, because Pierre Poilievre said he was going to try and fire Tiff Macklin. Or he said he would. He said he would fire him. So that was, you know, in terms of the central bank at least, that was the offer of accountability.
So that's the problem with
and you
like
could argue the same for the CBC and that kind of thing, which has obviously failed. I think that's a pretty neutral comment. But yeah, you're right. Canadians, or at least a plurality of Canadians, about 40% of the electorate said they didn't want that. They didn't want that accountability.
Perhaps Canadians lack empathy for those that suffer. And they're just like, oh, it's fine for me. But they forget to look across the road at their neighbor, the business that's gone out of business, the people losing their home, the people losing their jobs, and from the failed policies of the liberal economic policies of the past 10 years that don't seem to be any better, because it's the same ideology, right? Because the first thing that should have come out and would have been happening right now if the Conservatives won, we would have been talking about where the pipeline's getting built and what road needs to be plowed for it to happen.
Well, I feel like, to be a cynic, unlike me to do that, but to be a cynic, I feel like we would be talking about all the groups that were blocking the plans of the Conservatives. That would be the story, I think. Yeah. But no, it's because you just mentioned there about empathy, and you're saying why aren't they thinking about people who have lost their jobs, people who might lose their houses, etc., etc. It's interesting that you mentioned those two things anyway, because one of the main constituencies of the Liberal sort of voter base is retired seniors who don't work, don't pay a mortgage. So, I mean, it's quite interesting anyway that they were courted by the Liberals and that they turned out in such big numbers for the Liberals.
Yeah, we did that story a couple of days ago, and go back and watch it. And you actually find it on our YouTube channel too. It's like, who's watching TV? And that's the ones. Who's watching garbage TV? That's the ones. And this is why the Canadian dollar's up, and this chart will tell you the reason. The U.S. dollar's lost 9% of its value this year. So I wouldn't bet against it too long, though. I wouldn't take out a mortgage to bet against the U.S. dollar. So there you go.
It's really come down though. It's quite interesting. But I mean, it was artificially high as well. That's the other thing. It got pumped big time, didn't it?